In this segment, we answer a viewer's question.
People aren't even training close to actual systemic failure.
Your body gets so accustomed to feeling secure.
Any sort of advantage that you can utilize is going to be important for you to get ahead of your competition.
Welcome back to Beyond Reps and Sets. I am Adam Chang, registered physiotherapist, owner of Lift Physiotherapy, and co-host.
And I am the other half, Clifton Pusey, certified personal trainer for over 5 years.
In this segment, we answer a viewer's question.
Hey, so I keep hearing all of this stuff about using a weight belt. I don't have a bad back, but I keep hearing that it's supposed to give me gains when I lift. So I just want to know, when is the right time for me to use a weight belt, if I even need to use one at all?
Ooh.
Now, the hard and fast answer is, if you're using it for performance, okay. It does not do anything for injury prevention.
That's an important thing to state, because you'll see the guy in the weightlifting belt walking around the gym, grabbing a drink of water, chatting up the person at the front desk.
Doing bicep curls.
Doing bicep curls in the squat rack, which we know Adam loves. I think there is that misconception that people see where from a weight, when to wear it.
If this is you, stop using that weightlifting belt. If you're new to weightlifting, if you had a back injury in the past and you're getting back and you're rehabbing, trying to get back to your lifting, and also if you are not lifting close to your 1 repetition max.
Yeah, and that's a hard thing to gauge, because we've already talked about in the past in previous videos, people aren't even training close to actual systemic failure, or technical failure. So when you're looking at people who would actually benefit from a weightlifting belt, power lifter, strongmen, people that are exerting an exorbitant amount of force, the average lifter is not getting anywhere near that.
Definitely not. I actually saw a study that was done in the late 90s, and they were looking at baggage handlers at the airport. They split them up into 3 groups. So they had one group using a weightlifting belt, and these baggage handlers lift weight consistently throughout the day, right? The second group had the weightlifting belt, but also got education on lifting techniques and strategies. And the third group was a control group that got nothing. They did surveys to see how many of them had injuries, and after that 8-week period, who was continuing to use that weightlifting belt, and if they had injuries after that, or if they subjectively had complaints about their low back pain. And basically, what they found was the group that used the weightlifting belt for a period of time after that 8-week study, but then when they removed it, they actually had more injuries.
Wow. So the consensus there is there isn't actually any real advantage to wearing that belt on a day-to-day.
Definitely not to prevent injuries, because I think what actually happens is your body gets so accustomed to feeling secure with the belt.
Yeah.
Then when you take it off,
there is no strength adaptation for those muscles that keep our spine neutral, that keep our spine stable. There's that word again.
That's one thing. But then also, we know that the way pain often works, it's an alarm system. Pain comes before actual tissue failure, way before tissue failure in a lot of these cases with repetitive strain. So what's happening is your nervous system is becoming fearful and it's perceiving threat because it's not getting that external support.
Yeah, and it's used to that, and your body will adapt to what you go through. So if you are training the body to become dependent on something, same thing like we'll talk about in future when you become dependent on things to regulate things like hormones, the natural production of said hormones will reduce. Similarly, their nervous system will expect that external force to be keeping you stable as opposed to the muscles.
Exactly. Now, when it comes to performance, you won't see a top weightlifter without a belt.
No.
That's because they know that putting on one of those belts really tight can increase your max lift by up to 30 to 40%.
Yeah, staggering. It's the same. I would liken it to using a weightlifting shoe. If your whole goal is to put as much force forth in your sport for a specific reason, any sort of advantage that you can utilize is going to be important for you to get ahead of your competition. So using a flat shoe versus a weightlifting shoe, in that scenario, if it's going to give you 2.5 extra pounds to then get ahead of your competition, you're going to utilize that. But it's always important to remember what is the specific use for the piece of equipment that you're choosing to use.
For that beginner who is thinking about using that weightlifting belt because there's fear around these lifts, you've had potentially back pain in the past or previous injury in the past, you may want to think about actually developing that internal stability first, and not lifting so heavy right out the gate. I think it's important to gradually build up your strength without those external supports. And maybe if you do want to get into powerlifting, then that's when you buy one of those belts because you're already experienced and advanced.
So in conclusion, it is not something to avoid injury. It is something that you're using if you're going to be pushing maximal effort. Thank you so much. I hope that this helped you a ton in terms of taking a little bit of the nuance in terms of when to use a weightlifting belt. My name is Cliff.
And I'm Adam.
And thank you for traveling beyond reps and sets with us.